This is Dan of Vagabond Buddha, and I was running. I just finished my run for the day. I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil, touring around Brazil, and I just realized there's something I wanted to share with you, and that was that the present moment is where all the joy of life comes. And the future isn't here. The past isn't really here. We can relive joyful moments from our past path, but that's replaying a memory and then feeling joyful about the memory. But it's being replayed in the present. And so all joy is in the present. And because only now exists, really. I mean, conceptually, there's tomorrow and after that and before today. That's conceptual. But your experience of living is always in the present moment. You experienced yesterday. I'm not going to argue with that. And you'll experience tomorrow. But yesterday when you experienced it and tomorrow when you experience it, those will be now. And so all joy is in the now. You can also pollute the now with negative views of the future, negative views of the past, which spring from your story about what was wrong with the past and what you need to change about the future to make the future better. But it's quite rare, if it happens at all, for people to really experience joy when they're thinking negatively about the past or thinking negatively about the present because they're thinking about what's wrong with it and how they need to improve it. So enough said about that. But what I wanted to talk about today was this idea that when you first learn about the present moment, you might think, present moment means there won't be any plan. You're just kind of like this person who wanders around the world. Yeah, I said plan. I know that sounds like a contradiction, but keep listening. You have this idea that the present moment is a person who just wanders around aimlessly and doesn't really remember their past or think about the future. The present moment actually is the only time you can execute a plan. You know, you may have dreamed up, you may have spent some time yesterday thinking about you want a different car, you want a different house, you want a better job, you want to travel. Those are kind of like a negative view of that yesterday's moment about how it could be better if you were like this person or that person. But the now is when you would have to execute anything that would bring anything into the now. You can only bring something into your life now. You can't bring it in the past, and you can't bring it in the future. You can plan for it, but it's right now that you need to take action. It's right now you need to do the things that you're doing to bring joy into your life. You're not doing it because it's bad right now. You're doing it. If you're doing it with the idea in your mind that it's bad right now, so you have to do this thing you really don't want to do, make it better for tomorrow, you're not really in the present moment. What you are is you're imagining what's wrong with right now instead of being present to it. And so you're kind of polluting. Presence is when you're actually present to everything. like your environment around you, your sense of energy, a bird chirping in the background, or present to the action that you're taking right now. And that action you're taking right now has to be taken with joy. Now, I'm not telling your mind to make you joyful when you take this action. I'm telling you that if you can be in the present without your story about why this moment is wrong or what I'm doing to make it better, which are both sort of polluted present moment from your past or your future. But if you're really in the present moment, joy comes automatically. It's nothing you need to. It's not, you don't manufacture joy. It's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I know you're thinking, wait a second, what about on a day where I'm having a problem? I'm skiing and I break my leg or whatever. You know, I get that, right? And you take whatever action you have in that moment that will get you to the hospital, that will get you to the doctor, that will get you through that moment. And as long as you remain present in it, there's less pain than there would have been had you focused instead on whatever's wrong at this moment. Yeah, there's something wrong at that moment. Those moments, there's something wrong. But pain comes from how you define the moment, what you think about the moment, what your mind thinks about a moment. So your mind has an idea about what a broken leg feels like and what it's like to try to get up and get into a car or an ambulance or whatever to get to the hospital and how painful that would be, and you just want to sit here or whatever. But that's sort of a pain separate from whatever physical pain you would have in the present moment. So those are two different things, and anytime something that later you would label, oh, that was a bad day. There's two kinds of bad day. There's a bad day where you just dealt with whatever was happening that day, and there's a bad day where you added your shit to it, and you added drama to it, instead of just working your way through whatever it was at that moment. And so, but most moments aren't like that. Most of our life, I don't know the numbers. It's really kind of up to you. Every moment of your life could be terrible if you want to. We all know people like that. But that's because they're never in the present moment. They're never actually experiencing what's happening in their life. They're having a story about how it didn't turn out right and how it could be better and whose fault it is. And that's the pain of being a human. But there's another way of living, which is in the present moment, where you just experience what's going on now without your interpretation of it. And that's a real freedom and a joy that's available to all of us. And in fact, it's already there now. There's nothing you need to do. It's just, if you're not feeling that joy, it means you have another story you're telling yourself about why it isn't joyful this moment. And so the idea is, if you could, I don't know how to describe it other than to say, if your mind shut up, if it would just shut up for a minute, you could have a minute where you're seeing that joy. And we all know that feeling. We've all had those moments, whether we're walking in nature or we're playing with our dog or cat, or we're reading a book and we're gone. We're just in the author's words, something interesting or fun or whatever. Like, we disappear from our lives. And that's what the present moment is. When that person, you, with that name, who went to that school, those parents, brothers, blah, blah, when that voice comes silent, that's where the present moment is. And we all feel it. And so But the idea of this video was to talk about what people think when they hear about this concept. They think that, oh wait, you're telling me that if I can live in the present moment, that I won't remember the past, I won't remember the future, I won't. No, I'm telling you that's always available to you. You'll never lose your past or future. You can always enroll in it whenever you want. But once you learn that it's not something you have to sit in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that you can actually be in the moment you're in with a silent mind, you'll realize that there's just like a natural silence of joy around you all the time, in you. It goes in all directions. And that's what it feels like to be in the present moment. And it's, you're always there. You're just playing music over the top of it that feels comfortable because it's you. It's your past, your future. And so what about those things you have to get done? There's something you have to do today. You know, maybe you're at work. You've had a moment at work where, for whatever reason, you're concentrating so hard on what you're doing without thinking about anything that you look up at the clock and an hour's passed and you weren't in pain. You weren't thinking, oh, I'm hungry. Oh, what's for lunch? Oh, or maybe it's only 5 minutes. Maybe it's only 30 minutes at first. But see, action is different than thinking about the action you should be taking right now. And that's the distinction that I wanted to talk about in this video. Every day, I start out with a list of things to do. And yeah, that's a plan I made in the past. And while I was making that plan in the past, I was as present as possible as to what needed to get done in the future. And that kind of planning is, I can even do that without pain. It's because I know what things need to be done, how long they'll take. And I said, but if I'm present while I'm planning, I'm not in pain. The key is the presence to it. If I go into a day and I have a plan in front of me, and while I'm doing it, I'm thinking about other stuff, or I'm thinking about how I don't like what I'm doing, or I think about why am I doing this job? I'd rather be doing something else. Then I'm in pain. By the way, I'm walking on some really steep streets, and so my breath's going to continue to labor, even though I'm done with my run. And so present means sort of like 100% focus to the point where you're not in that moment. Now you'll have passing thoughts here and there that might be painful. Oh, I gotta call my sister. I missed her birthday last year. You know, and you'll have a tinge of pain here and there. But overall, if you're present in the absence of self-judgment, let's call it, it's very joyful. You don't need to do anything, and it's already there. And so this idea that you can't be a productive person in life, or you can't be successful, or you have to force yourself to get where you want. It has to be painful, like you asshole. Right now you're supposed to be doing this or that. What are you doing? Like none of that. That isn't required to have success. And I would argue that when you have energy going into that rabbit hole, that's energy you could be focused on what's happening right now. This thing that you need to execute, that is the promise you made to yourself to get done. If you're not there and you're doing that, like if you're in a conversation with somebody who you're trying to explain to them what's going on, and you're present to getting that idea across to them, it's in however many kinds of pictures and words and thinking you can, without in your head up judging them about how they're stupid, they're not learning this fast enough. Not only will you communicate that better, But that personality that kind of stops you in life and makes you think negativity and judge people and do all that stuff, that's actually slowing you down. So when you think, you're forcing yourself to do all this stuff and you need your mind to be aware all the time of everything going, like all of that's just in the way of getting where you want to be in life. So there's nowhere for you to go. You're already there. You just have to find your way to that place where you're concentrating. If quality goes into the moment right now in whatever you're doing, if you bring quality to that moment, that's living in the present moment. And it'll feel joyful. And you'll know you're there because it'll be joyful. Your life will be joyful. And you'll excel faster and further in life. You'll solve problems faster. Your life will be easier. So when your mind tells you that the present moment is for losers or ne'er-do-wells or people who don't have any goals, that's just another story. It's another judgment that your mind's making. And it's uninformed because you know what it's like when people like Michael Jordan live in the flow of a play, the flow of moving to the basket, instead of thinking about who's trying to cover them or what's going on at home or some personal problem. You have to be in the present moment for that kind of quality in your life. So thanks for listening.